Welcome, Corey. Welcome to the show. What's up, Lenny? What's up, Arian? Welcome, brother. Let the guys trickle in here for a minute. I'm going to go ahead and put a link in the chat. And this link is a link to the draft of my new book. And I'm going to give you access to it. It's a PDF. And it is called The Badass of Tao. Keep it to yourself. Check it out while people are showing up. Welcome, Daquan. Did AI write it? It's a little bit of a combo between me, AI, and Jed McKenna's mentor. We wrote it together. AI doesn't write stuff. It just does what you tell it to. Won't write stuff on its own. Gian, welcome, brother. Gian, tell me if you can see the last link I put above in the chat, or if you don't see any messages when you log in. I don't know. When you log in for the first time in the chat, tell me if you see everybody else's messages or not. Daquan, I was very, very close to Jed McKenna's mentor. In fact, I write about it a little bit in this book. All right, everybody, click on that link. Tell me if you can download it or if you can only see it. I'll have a little bit of interaction here. Welcome, Aaron. Good to see you, brother. Aaron, you'll see a link in the chat if you're not on your phone or whatever, even if you are on your phone. Go ahead and download that book, Aaron. That's a draft of my new book. Corey, yes, I was very good friends with Jed's mentor. Jed is now dead, unfortunately, / sure that's best for him. He finally got to confirm his suspicions about reality. But his mentor is still alive, and his mentor was my best friend for several years. Go ahead and download that book. Did you guys get a chance to download it, or is it something that's just loading so you can read it? Tell me that. It's quite a book. Did you get to download it, or are you just seeing it? All right, downloaded. Okay, there we go. It's officially out there. So Arian got the download. Corey says it's just loading. Lenny says it's downloaded. Downloaded for Daquan. So Corey, you're just tarded. That's the issue. You're just tarded, but we already knew that. That's why we love you, bro. That's why we love you. One of the many reasons, of course. We're going to wait one more minute, see if anyone else happens to slide in here. It's okay if not. We're going to have a chat about this book. I want to go through some of the things in it. All right, I'm going to wait just one more minute here. about this book, about the topic of this book, which is ego awakening. It's about also the process of, let's see, let me just take a look at it. The process, it's got some fucking hilarious stories in it too, which is great. Okay, let me just go through it here. I've got some examples, things. If you want to know about my experiences with Jed's mentor, look at chapter 4. And then chapter 5 was written by him. Chapter 9 and chapter 10. No, chapter 9. That was written by him as well. And chapter 8 was written by him. So 8 and 9. And I believe that's the end of that. Chapter 11 is an excerpt from a Jed McKenna section. I go over a bit of my experience, not very much, but a little bit of my experience of death. I'm going to go into that in future books, I think, in a little bit deeper depth, and a little bit more depth. But a lot of this book is about the game of no games. And that is the game of awakening. Corey, I see you coming back with the idea of us meditating together, and I'm glad that you're holding that as our little candle guiding light over here. I'm releasing this book as a prerequisite to sitting and meditating. I'm going to release another one before we actually meditate. I'm going to write multiple books. This is going to be the way that I write books now. I don't know if you know this or not, but whenever I wrote the Tao of Badass, I actually didn't write it. What I did was I recorded myself saying everything. Then I had it all transcribed from audio. And then I took that and then edited that down into the book. All right, let's see what we got here. I'm going to go a little bit more. Let's save this image. Let's do that. Let me go ahead and do this here too. Oops. Do a couple things while you guys are chilling and while you're kind of browsing through and looking at the book. I know it's a lot. It's a lot, honestly. It's going to take you guys a while to get through it, and might take you a day it's not that huge, but and it's pretty engaging. So I wouldn't doubt it. I wouldn't be surprised if some of you little monsters got through it in a day. I'm going to go ahead and make a couple of changes to the design of it, just so that it's, nice looking. Gonna add a little cover image, that image that you're looking at right now. And then I'm going to get to the content for today. Today is going to be a very interesting day because it's the first day that I've actually talked to anyone since I started writing this book. This thing is something I've been writing for easily 10 years. No exaggeration. Let's do that there. There we go. All right. I'm going to get going here in just a minute. Let's see what we got. Ask any questions you have about this topic. Go ahead and drop them in and get ready to get the answers to those questions. I know that you guys have been so patient and also just so fucking curious about my journeys in general. And I appreciate that. And I also understand, this is a thing that's dear to all of our hearts as men. My main point behind this book that I want you to understand is that the process of awakening is yours, first off. the process of awakening is intimate to you, and that, of course, it's available to you, which is important for you to know. But beyond that, I think even more so that it's possible for you to actually live in an awakened life. And I did not know this. I thought that it was something wildly unattainable for most of my life. So I wanted you to understand that. I hear you on the Spiritual Sunday thing. I would love to continue that. I know I love it so much whenever it happens. But I will. Corey, if you want to print it out, feel free to print it out in your printer, bro. Go ahead and do it. I never met Jed McKenna personally. Would have been funny if I did. Of course, he his mentor invited him to come meet me right before he died, but he couldn't make it. I think that's for the best. You can't awaken by doing drugs. That's 100% true. Though I don't know if you can truly awaken without experiencing some alternate realities. So there's that too. You don't need to do drugs, but yeah. Jed was not Peter Sweeney. No, he was not. Hey, Emmanuel. Emmanuel, go ahead and scroll up in the chat and click that link that I dropped in at the very top and download that book. That is my new book. It's a draft of my new book. And I want you to have it. Take your time reading it. Give me some feedback. Please, guys, comment on the sections of the book. Comment, highlight it, comment. All right, I'm going to give you some of these wonderful questions. Okay. All right, guys, let's do this. Let's stop sharing the screen. Let's jump into the video. You can see my beautiful face. I'm sure you're all very excited about it. Hey, there we go. Look, see, sometimes I get on video and I realize my beard is not behaving. You know what? That's okay. Perfectly okay. All right. So, writing this book, I've been writing it for the past 5 days. I've written it. I started collecting notes on it 9-10 years ago, and finally got to the point where I was able to write it in the past few days. Going to release this book. It's called The Badass of Tao. I think was pretty good. Considering the Tao is another word for the path, and it's pretty badass. I didn't realize till afterwards naming it that it kind of seems like I'm saying I'm the badass of the path, but really you are the badass of Tao. And I would love to take your questions about this content, but first you're going to have to let me walk you through it and let me explain a couple things so that you can ask questions. This is directly related to attraction. It might not seem like it, but it is. All the things that you're going to learn in this book and beyond this book and to others are, one second here. All right. Just checking on a couple things here, make sure I'm not going crazy. I'm going to go through this book with you. The main focus of this book is really around a few topics. Now, there's so many things to talk about. The Tao of Badass was the same. The Tao of Badass was really just a few topics, considering that my courses that I was teaching, namely the Black Ops program, things like that, when I was touring and teaching, those were, let's say, the Pareto principle would say that those were the 80%. I would I would teach 80%. Well, let's say it's 100%, right? 80% of what I taught in that class was new, stuff you never heard of before if you'd read the Tao Badass. But 20% of the stuff that I taught in those classes, I wrote into the Tao Badass. And the reason why I did is 20% of that stuff I could say to everybody, and it would be true, be useful to everyone. But beyond that, 20% of it was the stuff that got you results. So that's what I wrote into the Tao Badass. That's why it was such a success. Okay, if you're considering writing a book, I can totally tell you how to do that. This is very familiar to me. I've written dozens. No, I've written over a dozen books. This book probably is about I'm going to guess somewhere around my 13th, 14th book that I've written. And it is by far my most entertaining book to me. I had the chance not just to write, but to write in the style that I like to write, to be goofy and to be silly and make you laugh a little bit, but at the same time to deliver important information. And I've learned this over time teaching, that there is a sort of flow and cadence to information. And then if I try to make myself look all nice and look all pretty, that people don't really connect to it. So it's a lot better if I think about them, you in this case, going through the book and reading and kind of having your mind blown at certain places, rather than taking the opportunity to make myself look good, which is stupid. I take the opportunity then to be lighthearted with you and to show you that this isn't the end of the world, right? That this is it's okay. This is true. That's the reality of it. And I can't change that for you or anyone else or myself. However, I can at least show you that it's possible to have a good time with it. So I'm going to first go through a few of these questions that you have. If you have more questions, go ahead and toss them in. And I'm not going to make this a very long call today. When I get off, I want you to download the book. I want you to read the book. It is, for those of you who are just watching the replay in the future. It's 150 pages. So you're gonna get a read out of it. Let's go into some questions because I'm getting some amazing ones. Okay, great. All right. First off, I'll say, Corey, I really want to do this meditation class. I have to release this book first because I have to get the interest of everybody who's interested, who's called to this journey and this Tao. And I want them to come and join. I'd like to have 30, 40 guys at the first meditation class. It's a pay minimum, just cost. Food is taken care of. Lodging is taken care of at the tent. I'll have to get a bunch of tents. And everyone will sleep in them. And we'll have a chef cook all your food for you. And you will meditate. You'll meditate with me, and I'll speak. You will not speak. You will not speak for 3 days. You won't look at your phone for 3 days. You won't read a book for 3 days. You won't write notes in a journal for 3 days. You won't make eye contact with other people for 3 days. You'll be isolated from everybody. You won't have anything to run away to. You'll only have yourself. And the days will be long. We'll wake up a certain hour. We'll get to work at meditating. We'll go to bed early. We'll do it again the next day. And this will be a 3-day event. I'm not trying to make money from it. I'm going to take the total cost and I'm going to spread it out over 30 guys, 40 guys. And anything that's extra that comes in, I'll put toward meditation programs in the future. Separate business, not about money making, not for profit, but for profit. PROPHET. Not for PROFIT. So yeah, happy to do that. I really want to do it, but first this book has to get out there, and it has to be refined. Okay. All right. I'm going to go through the questions here. I already answered the question about Jed. All right, I answered the question again earlier. I'll answer it again now. This question: can you awaken by doing drugs like 5-MeO, DMT, by doing DMT or other drugs? No, you cannot. If that was the case, everybody who you saw who was doing those drugs would be awake. This is a common misconception that you can awaken to truth by having altered states, though I do not think that you can awaken to truth without loosening this state of being. So you will need to step into an altered state, regardless of whether you're doing drugs or not. Doesn't really matter. You are going to need to step into an altered state in order to awaken, because you will not have a reference point for how things can change and how much they can change unless you do it. Now, you can do that through meditation. You want to do it that way. You don't have to do drugs. However, I've never known anyone to be enlightened without going through an altered state. And again, it can be meditation triggered, but no matter what, it's the same chemicals in your brain that are being released, in your brain. All right. Corey asks, I'm going to Silver Method Toronto next week. Silver Method in Toronto next week. Any tips? Corey, good on you, dude. That is going to literally change your life. That's going to be the difference. Mark it down in your calendar. That's the time when you went to this event. After that, look at your income, your bank account. Look at your desires in general, whether or not they come to life. Look at your frustrations and whether or not they're gone. And look at yourself to see if you aren't if you aren't heading in the direction that you want to go more so at that point, or B, discovering where you want to go in life. All right, good idea. Silva Method is one of those very few things that I just can't deny. It's powerful. And it's powerful for the same reasons that I outline in The Badass of Tao, this new book. All right. Daquan asks, how do we step into Christ consciousness? So first, I think when you say something like this, we need to define what it is. What is Christ consciousness, right? Christ was a being. We'll say, instead of thinking that he is the Son of God and special and different, we'll say that he is the Son of Man, which means that he's a man that saw the truth and lived by the truth. And that's his consciousness, right? His consciousness is, in this case, it's expressed as his expression of life, or his perspective of life. So how do we step into the same perspective of life as Jesus and others, not just Jesus? Christ was not a last name for Jesus, right? Christ was a title, and Christ meant essentially the embodied, awakened expression of God. So how do you step into Christ consciousness? Christ was devoid of belief. He also had compassion for those who did not make it as far as he did. And those two things together, compassion and love for those who are on their own journey and approaching and crossing the line of awakening, bring you Christ consciousness. Christ consciousness is simple. It's a state of non-belief based life plus complete integrated unity. Now, there are 4 stages essentially, and I go over them in the book, and I'll go over them in a minute with you guys, that have to do with these different stages. 4 stages that have to do with the transition into Christ consciousness. And at first, you have this thing called blinking that happens. You start your journey, you start blinking. Start blinking in and out of awakening. Short, quick, sometimes, bouts with ego, and then short, quick victory laps of awakening perspective. And you get these things, they make a major impact on you. They show you where you could be, and they show you where you are. It shows you how far you have to go. This is like a GPS ping for the awakening part of you, or the awakening journey. That's the first step. The first step is that you start to remove your beliefs, and of course, as a result, you begin to blink in and out of awakening. Second step, we'll call it the whirlpool. I'll call it the whirlpool in the book. The whirlpool is where you are being sucked in to awakening, and the strength and gravity of awakening is stronger than the gravity of sleepiness or delusion. Okay? That's the next step. The next step after that is called the rest. The rest is where you are resting, honestly. It is a massive shift in your way of being. You give up on trying to wake up because you're being pulled into the awakening and there's nothing you can do to stop. And so as a result, you end up surrendering. And then finally, you have, not finally, next, you have the stage of awakening or done. This is one of those things that it seems like you're there when you're not there. So you'll have a lot of, false summits where you think that you are there, but you are not there. You get to awakening. No one can tell you that you're there. No one can tell you that you're not there. Awakening is the default state that you remember that you're dreaming. It's very difficult to remember that you're dreaming when you're not awake. Okay? Next, and finally, you have a stage called integration. Integration is where you basically learn how to do all this shit again. You learn how to live life. You learn how to be, how to walk, how to sleep, how to ride a bicycle. Every single thing you've ever learned how to do, you learn how to do it again, but without ego. This time you learn how to do it as an awakened being. Now you can involve your ego, of course, and over time you do have to involve your ego because your ego is the only way that you can express and interact with the world. And you'll learn to love your ego over time. There's no doubt about it. All right. Integration is the last step. After integration, you are now fully awakened, a fully awakened being. You might say enlightened. You're the version of yourself that is awake, right? And that is Christ consciousness. Christ consciousness is integrated and awake. All right. So if you follow the processes I outline in this book, and you actually do the stuff I outline in this book, I don't go into crazy detail. I just tell you what you need to know, and then that's that. So if you can't follow it, then you can't follow it. I don't try to sugarcoat it, and I don't try to make you interested or curious. I just, tell you how it is. I've never done this before. This is my first time actually teaching people in written form. It's dangerous to do this, Okay. Let's see what else we got here. So that is my answer. How do you step into Christ consciousness? The way that you do is that you awaken. You awaken through the process I outline here, of course. Everybody has the same process, though everyone's process is unique. So it's funny to say that. This thing is full of paradoxes, or apparent paradoxes. They seem like paradoxes, but they're not. Yours is unique to you. Your flavor is unique to you. Imagine having a car, right? A car is not unique in that it has wheels. It has a steering wheel. It has windshields, some of them have engines, or at least they have some driving force within them, batteries, torque, generators, that kind of thing. And that's that, right? I can tell you if you have a car, you have these things, right? Every car has these certain things. Now, your car is going to be painted your color. It's going to have your number of seats and number of doors. It's going to have your number of windows. It's going to have your style of engine. I can't say that every car is a V6. I can't say that because it's not true. So in some ways, I can say every journey to awakening is the same. Every journey to awakening is a car. It has wheels, it has windshields, like I mentioned, etc. But I can't say that every journey to awakening is going to involve this thing and that thing, and or that every journey to awakening is going to take this much time or that much time. Okay? Keep that in mind. All right. Next question. Why did Jed want to be anonymous? Well, that's a great question, Corey, and I'd love to answer that question. So Jed McKenna realized in teaching that and I realize this too, when you teach awakening, you run into a problem. Problem is something that Adi Da, who's another crazy ass awakening dude, a spiritual teacher, used to call the man in the middle syndrome. This is where people will see the person who's teaching them, the embodiment, the avatar, the guru, whatever it is, that person teaching. And they'll put the teacher in the middle and lift them up with their minds. They'll go, you're up there, I'm down here. And the teacher inevitably will talk about that, will buy into it because A, it feels good, and B, it's kind of true, right? It seems to be that way. You do seem elevated whenever you are no longer bullshitting yourself like everyone else is. And it's the case of in the land of the blind, the man with one eye is king situation. So the man in the middle process strategy has a major flaw. And that major flaw is that once people lift you up, they start to believe, they start to recognize deeply in themselves that they're lifting you and you're agreeing to that lift, but you're not different from them. That they are indeed the same as you in every way possible. The only difference is that they believe they're not. They believe they're something else. And that makes them feel like they're lower. So in order to then evolve and to become the best versions of themselves, to become like you, they have to tear you down to their level. And that's called the man in the middle syndrome, where you have this man, everyone will throw in the middle. This person's the exemplary example of what to be and how to be. And they hold that person up and they go, you're like a god, you're like amazing, we want to be like you. And then they inevitably, if the mentor is smart enough and good enough, they inevitably start to grow in themselves and they start to become more like the mentor, in which case they start to resent that this mentor is held up like this and they need to tear the mentor down. So why did he want to be anonymous? Because he couldn't say the things he needed to say without being anonymous. That means that if I said, hey, this life is a dream, and then you see me in a video talking, I get an interview with somebody and on a podcast. And in that interview, you hear me talking about how life is real and it's very real. Well, then do you think that I'm lying about life being a dream? How could I say that life is a dream and also say that life is real? And all these miscommunications, misunderstandings, they become this personal curiosity where it begins to tear down the value and the lift or the perspective of the man in the middle. So Jed McKenna decided to be anonymous so that nobody could realistically project onto him without hopefully noticing that they were the ones doing all the projecting, because it's a fictitious character. That's why he wanted to remain anonymous, so that nobody knew who he was, so no one could project onto him his mistakes or his apparent mistakes in life and then diminish his words. If I told you more about Jed McKenna, you probably would say, I don't want to listen to that guy. I don't want to follow that guy. I don't want the life that that guy had, because he fucked up in a lot of ways. And his life was fucked up in a lot of ways. But everything he wrote was real. It was 100% real. And not just that, it was accurate, not just real. So what people do is they go, well, that guy, his character is XYZ, so let's not listen to him, right? That guy's got flaws. That guy's got problems. That guy's got things that we're afraid of getting ourselves. So they then don't listen to what he says. And that's why he was anonymous. Daquan asks, if there's no God and we are all God in our own right, what's the point of continuing and playing in this simulated world? Well, Daquan, there's no world other than this simulated world. Every world that you experience is a simulated world as God. In order to experience anything, you have to imagine it and dream it into being. So if you're God and you're the dreamer of all things, which is the same as saying that you're God, right? You're the dreamer of your reality, which is the only reality that exists to you, which is the only thing that you can confirm in the world ever exists, which means that you're God. If you can only confirm that, it means that that's all that there is to confirm. Imagining that you are less than that is an imagining. It's not real. So if there is no God, and you say there is no God, but there is, you are God. Okay? Not to say that you are just God pure with no delusions. You're God and you're imagining you're less than that, which is okay. And you say we are all God is the next part of your statement. No, we aren't. We are all you, and you are the dreamer. So yeah, we're all you, and so therefore we're all God. Sure, you could say that, right? And what's the point of continuing this whole thing that's going on right now? This moment in life, your whole life is the point. Without this, you don't have a reference point yet. When you die, you will remember how great this whole thing is. And I hope that you die and come back, that you die and then you suddenly get revived so you can remember that, so you don't die and then have to start all over again, right? Go back to being a baby or whatever it is that happens for you when you die. I'm imagining that's the same thing that happened to me. I went as far as you can possibly go in the journey of death and awakening. That's the only thing I've actually accomplished in my life fully. Everything else I've only gone partial ways because everything else never ends. This thing actually has a destination. So what's the point of continuing to play the simulated world? Well, what's the point of playing it now? It's the same point, except that you haven't accepted yet that that's great. That's fucking amazing to be able to wake up in the morning, to have a body, not just a body, to be able to wake up as a person, to be able to wake up with other people that are around, to live in a world that has consistent reality, day and night, sleep, wake up, do your thing. People call you a name. You have memories. You go to sleep that night, you wake up again the next morning. You have new memories, but you have the same name. You have consistency. Okay? Consistency is the reason. It allows you to play out a story. And that's what this is all about. Gian asks, what is happiness? Happiness. Happiness. Some people would suggest that happiness is a warm gun. Well, if you're interested in reading about happiness, you can read the book Happiness by Darren Brown. Darren Brown wrote a book about happiness. I don't think it actually is about happiness, but it is about coping. Coping with the considerable, formidable ego and the egotistical world. And that's essentially what Stoicism is. And he goes a lot, very deeply into Stoicism in that book. Happiness is, to me, flow, surrendering to the flow. When you surrender to the flow, you're happy. When you go against the flow, you're not. You have suffering when you go against the flow, thank goodness. Suffering always wins because it can outsuffer you. You never can outsuffer the suffering. You'll give up on the suffering well before the suffering gives up on you. So it's there, and I write about this in the book. It's there as a guiding post, as like a bumpers on a bowling alley. You throw the ball down, it bounces left, 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 right, 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 right. And it goes back and forth. You know? And the process of going back and forth, it keeps you in track. And eventually you knock down a pen or two or 10. The point is just to be here, Corey says. That's actually true. The point is to dream. You're doing it now. I go into purpose and meaning in the book a little bit. Daquan, you may not have the answer to this, but it's something I often query. If we are God, why does it often seem like we lack control? What's your best response to this? Great question. So as a God that can control everything, what's a gift? Imagine that you eternally are a God that can control everything. If I were to say to you, you can have anything you want, you would say, no shit. I create everything. You know, it would be really cool if I could say, you know what? I can make you forget. I can make you forget that you can control everything. Would you be interested? Probably. Now we're talking, right? As a God who has ultimate power, who can control anything, who can make anything, you don't get the story of evolving. if you do that, as soon as you run into any kind of an issue, you can't just overcome it by shifting realities. You have to work your way up to that. You have to get lost. You have to forget the fact that you can do anything you want. Now, you don't actually lack control, right? Control is a weird word, but in the way that you mean it here, yeah, you don't lack control. You have control. But you value consistency more than you value avoidance. And that's the big difference. You value consistency because you like to wake up the same being every day, over and over again, in order to learn and grow and shift and evolve. You can't evolve if you're not the same person every day. Imagine going to sleep at night. You wake up tomorrow, you're a different person with different memories. The next day, different person with different memories. What are you going to do every day? What are you going to do? You know you're not going to be the same person again tomorrow. There's no point in evolving and pushing towards something great. You know that anything you do today is going to be washed away at the end of the day. So there's no point in doing anything there. And also, there's nowhere to go. There's no place you were, the place you're going to. That's my best response to that. You can control a dream, Corey. You can 100% control a dream. In fact, you're controlling it right now. But the belief, well, let's call it the illusion. The illusion that you can't control everything is a gift that you gave to yourself, and you're not going to take it back. Okay. Let's keep going. Arian, is it the end of the world? What does that mean? You mean where all life dies? No, it's not. Is it where you die? Probably not. The end of the world, Armageddon, all that good stuff, that's the end of ego. The end of the collective celebration of ego, of delusion. Yes, it is the end of that, 100%. And you're seeing the results of everybody responding in panic to that. Anybody who's aligned or allied with the delusion is now starting to freak out because they're getting weaker and weaker, whereas previously they were getting stronger and stronger. It's the end of the world in that it's the end of lies at our point in time. It's the reason why I waited till now to be born. And this is the world I was born into. All right, I love this next question, Arian. You're hilarious. And I have a great answer to this question. How did you not get STDs after fucking so much? Well, I can tell you that first, I used the condom when I was really promiscuous and I was going all over the place. I used the condom all the time. Religiously, I used the condom. I only stopped whenever I started dating exclusively women. Or if I was dating 2 women, I wasn't going to be dating 6 or hooking up with random girls and that kind of thing. I don't know, actually, how I didn't get STDs. I just didn't. I got super lucky, maybe. The kinds of women that I was sleeping with. I'm sure that over the course of my sleeping with all the women I did, that there was at least one that had an STD when I slept with her, and I didn't get it. So I once met this guy. He was a pickup artist, actually, like a hardcore pickup artist. And he said before he was a pickup artist, he was a sex ed teacher for kids in high school. And the first thing he did when he got into class that he was trained to do was say, look, I know you're scared of getting STDs, but you don't have to worry as much as you think you do. We scared the shit out of you a bit too much, and you don't have to worry about it as much. Now, if you sleep with a prostitute, of course you're gonna get STDs. You're going to. It's just gonna happen. Not just one. If you sleep with several of them and multiple times, you will eventually get STDs. But I never did that, so that could be it. Okay. I'm looking through the rest of the questions. Daquan says, I'll sleep in a tent with all you guys. Of course you will. If we get this thing done, I know everybody on this call is going to be there. I know that you'll do whatever you got to do to be there. If we do a silent meditation retreat, I already know it. And it's probable that I'm going to do one because I feel called to. Every year that I've done it before, every year that it happens, someone does go crazy. They run away. They can't help it. They just can't handle. No one's going to do that in mine. Everyone goes crazy, but no one's going to run away. It won't be by the end of the year, Corey. I probably won't be able to do it by the end of the year, just being realistic. I don't think that everyone else will be able to do it by the end of the year. It's already September. But we'll do it soon. What does stepping into an altered state mean? Right now you have this experience where your senses are all synchronized, where you look around and everything is where you left it, where there's the peace or chaos of your mind, but it's consistent. That's your current state, your default state of being. When you meditate to the point of activating chemicals in your brain, let's say, or in your body, so that you now see things that aren't there, or you take enough drugs to get to the point where you see and experience things that aren't there, it's called an altered state. Arian, great question here. How did you let go of family? Just adding this so I don't forget. Very carefully let go of family. Family is not family. Family is roles that you play. Brother, son, dad, if you're a dad. These are roles that you play. You let go of the belief that if you don't play the role, you're going to be alone forever and you're going to die alone. And you let go of that by accepting that you might die alone. In a way, you're going to definitely die alone, but that you might live your whole life being alone and shunned and unaccepted as a person, and that your family might be part of that. And if they don't accept you for who and what you truly are, then they need to let you go now. So the way that I let go of family is I let go of the role. I actually called them all up and talked to them all and said, I can't play the role of your brother anymore like I used to. I can't play the role of your son anymore like I used to. I need to step beyond that for myself. I love you no matter what. I love you, but I also need to be free from the obligations of these roles in order to truly love you. Otherwise, I'm only going to be doing this. I'll never know if I'm doing it because I'm afraid I'm going to lose you, or because I truly love you, and you won't know it either. So that's what I did. Corey asks, what is ideology? Ideology is where you have an ideal, or let's say some way you'd like the world to be, and you live in a series of beliefs that acts as if that thing you think is real is happening. Lenny interpreted it slightly different. Spelling idealization, which is where you idolize, where you make an idol of someone. Slightly different word. That's where you elevate someone. I don't know what JRE is, Lenny, so that's that. Is Jeb McKenna's fictitious name related to Terrence McKenna? It is. Good call. Good catch. If everybody woke up, do you think we'd all start killing each other? No. I'm awake and I haven't killed anybody. That's a great question, though, because you're not really bound by the fear of consequences. Aaron says, Aaron, what the fuck? But Aaron, you have to understand that Aaron's got a great question. That's actually a really great question. Well, if they did, then it would be what's supposed to happen. It wouldn't be that way, though. It isn't that way. You realize that everyone's you. Why would you go around killing everyone? That would essentially reflect to you that you want to die, you know? So if that happens, then you wouldn't kill everyone. You would just go experience death in some kind of way. Okay. Let's see what else we got here. Here's an interesting thing. Arian says, in another life, I am Josh or Daquan or Aaron or Lenny or Gian, any of those people, other the people in the universe. No, actually, Arian, in this life, you are. In this life, we are you. And by that, you have to really understand what I mean. When I say I don't mean this person you're talking to. I mean the one inside that's experiencing all the shit going on. I'm the experiencer. If I died right now and my body was just limp and lifeless on the ground, you wouldn't keep talking to me because I'm not in there anymore. I am not the body. I can leave the body. I can die. That's important to know, that in this life, the one that I call me is actually you. Everyone here is you. Hey, Johnny, welcome. I didn't realize you showed up. Oh, JRE is Joe Rogan Experience. Thanks for that. Johnny, since you just showed up, make sure you're still here. You are. Johnny, scroll up in the chat, and at the very top, you'll see a link. Click that link. It's a link to my new book. It's a draft of my new book. Download it now. Make sure you download it and read it. That's that. Okay. All right. So here's a question. Here's a statement. I would love to create and maybe even see a movie where someone wakes up someone new every day, where the moral of the story is gratitude for consistency. I don't know that movie other than The Matrix. Let's see what else we got. You ever date a porn star or an OnlyFans girl? How do you conquer that fear? I did date, I won't say a porn star, but I'll say a woman in porn. And I've been with women who had sex worker jobs and stuff like that too, of course. And I don't have a fear. Like, what do you mean? There's no fear. They're choosing you over all the dudes that drool over them all day long. The thing is, I wasn't exclusive with them, so I wasn't exclusively dating them, and I wouldn't. So that's how. How did I verify sexuality? Just to know my peep doesn't go up when I see dick. How did I verify sexuality? I don't know. I didn't. I just when I was sleeping with women, they were all women. They weren't really lady boys, so I didn't have to worry about that. That's that. I didn't. It's pretty easy check. I think you can pretty much tell Adam's apple and penis and balls. So those are the things. Okay, let's see. Gian says, it seems I attract people a lot at the right time when I need them. Is this a side of awakening? That's a side of dreaming your life. And everyone will do this, just like whenever you think of someone on the phone. I think of someone and you haven't talked to them in a year, and then suddenly they call you right when you're thinking about them. The reason why that happens is because you're dreaming, and because you conjure it into being, and because a phone call is something you can accept. It's a coincidence, but it's not such a coincidence that you would shit your pants because you're scared, because things are unraveling in your reality. Okay, questions are flying in. I'm gonna have to just jump into content here in just a little bit and ignore the questions for a bit. So, do we need to have sex with a man to find out if we like it or not? Corey, you don't. I think that if you, here's an important thing. Sexuality, right? Heterosexuality, homosexuality. It's important to understand the sexuality part. Sexuality, it means that you're aroused. In these cases, it means that you're aroused by the sexual expression of a man or a woman, right? Heterosexuality, as a man, you're attracted to a woman. It means you're aroused by the sexual expression of a woman. And homosexuality would be that you are aroused by the sexual expression of a man. Bisexuality is where you're aroused by both of them. right? You don't need to sleep with someone to find out. You just need to experience their sexuality, meaning that be near them when they're sexually aroused. If a man is around me and he's sexually aroused, I find it off-putting. But that's not because I decide to or I want to. It's just because I do. Just like I can't tell you why I like certain foods and not other foods. It just is that way. So there is it's a personal thing, and there's absolutely no shame in it. You know, if you are aroused by men, let's say, for example, this is just an example, and I'm not saying that you are, but if you find that you are, then you're either bi or gay, and that's okay. Fighting it will cause a shitload of problems. It's best that you don't fight it. You're not going to have a good time doing that. You're not going to be happy. So you don't need to sleep with someone. And actually, it's funny because I used to wonder the same thing. How do I know if I'm not gay? Because like I've never been with a guy. But thinking about it, I was like, you know what? The next guy I'm attracted to, and you can do this experience too, Corey. You can run this experiment. I said, the next guy that I'm attracted to sexually, I'm going to sleep with. Right? I'm going to pursue that. And then I just said, I'm going to leave that open. And it never happened because I'm just not. But if I was, you bet your ass I would have done it. I would not have been afraid. I would have been afraid, I'm sure, but I would not have been too afraid to explore it. No. So that's good. That's that. Just wanted to be sure that you understand that. There's nothing wrong with it at all. And not just that it takes courage to wonder that question. Question. What? Oh, this is everybody else. Okay, cool. This is from Johnny. Okay. Put a couple others. What do I do when I deal with incredibly sensitive people on a political spectrum? I've dealt with a lot of far left people in my life and live in New York City. There's actually a section of this book that you just downloaded. And it talks about, I'm going to ignore Corey for a second because he's going to make me laugh if I keep reading what he's reading. It talks about how ridicule is actually good. There's a I can't remember the exact word, but it's written in the book. It's a love of ridicule is there's a word for it, like a condition. And this is where you like to be ridiculed. It's not the same as being deprecated or being put down. It's that, and I went to a phase of life that was very, very deeply in this world. It was a part of my awakening journey, was where someone would make fun of me or put me down in some way. I would see it as them giving up on a chance to reduce their own ego in order to let me reduce mine and help me reduce mine. Reduce your ego by being mocked and by not being accepted by others, all that kind of stuff. So when someone is, I'm going to talk about how this relates to the political stuff. First off, I don't know anyone's political views in here, but if you're far left and you believe in censorship, if you believe that you can force your view on other people and that they need to comply with you, you can go fuck a duck. I don't give a shit about your opinions about that. I don't care. You're deluded with your head so far up your ass, I can't tell you what's up and what's down, because everywhere is up and everywhere is down. I think that politically speaking, this is what's happening to the left, not the left, to Democrats in general. Now, Republicans have been dealing with this for themselves for a long time too, because Republicans had the same thing happen. But Republicans had it happen the other direction, where they were like, don't listen to anybody, don't trust anybody, don't let anything new come in, don't let anything old go away. We want just that stuff. So both sides have been forced into, let's say, confronting their own fears and their own values. And right now, the left is getting their turn. And it's not pretty. It ain't pretty at all, of course. And it's just like that. It's not pretty because all of your real reasons for believing what you believe start to show up. The fears that we never saw before start to show up. So, what do I do when I deal with incredibly sensitive people on the political spectrum? Is I ask them questions. I just ask them questions. Why do you believe that? What is that like to believe that? What are you afraid of with that? If they ask me questions, I answer honestly. If they ridicule me, I say, thank you. Thank you for giving me a chance right now to humble myself, to feel ridiculed, to feel like I've lost control, and to accept that for myself. That's the way to deal with it. Evolve. Evolve beyond it. Why is attraction related to awakening? Great question, Gian. Attraction to a woman, and I feel this in general with life, as a man, you're called into action by desires. And there's no desire greater that you'll experience than love. You're going to want it. And all the other things in your life that you experience, especially things that are unrelated, like money, they're actually about love. If you had them all, but you didn't have love, you wouldn't be happy. Keep that in mind. So when you, just make sure I stay on this. When you're attracted to a woman for the first time, deeply attracted to a woman, you feel called to complete a part of yourself. And this missing part of yourself that you believe is missing, you have to seek out to complete it. And in doing so, you have to start looking at yourself and asking, what am I doing? Why am I here? Why am I doing this? What is this all about? And that's why you read the Tao of Badass, because you were called and you felt confused and you felt the suffering of others inside of yourself. You felt the suffering of this woman who was looking for a man. And you might have been that guy, but she couldn't see you. You know, she couldn't experience you because she wasn't available, right? So that's why attraction is related to awakening. Attraction sparks your awakening as a man. A woman is here for you to show you yourself, not just to show you what's under her skirt. She's here to show you what's under your hood. And you don't know that until you have a reason to look. Okay. Arian, as far as you know, dealing with people from the left, keeping that in mind, you're not going to get anywhere by shunning them and by being mean, but you can for yourself have the resolve of like, I don't respect that. I don't respect others. I will respect the perspective of anyone who respects mine, period. And if someone does not, then I do not. That's that, right? So if they don't respect your perspective, then don't respect theirs. But don't spend a bunch of time around them. Okay. Arian asks about beating the grass to startle the snakes. I wouldn't do that. Snakes are nice and sleepy in there, and you don't want to startle the snakes. If you're trying to get out the snakes of your life, quote unquote, then you, of course, you're going to want to beat every bush and make sure that there's nothing in anywhere. It's like shining the light in the attic, as Jeb McKenna used to say, making sure you look at every single inch of your ego and questioning everything, right? You don't do that with other people. You do it with yourself only, all right? If someone hates you for how you're born, I guess is probably that word. Yeah, J is right next to N on the keyboard. If someone hates you for how you're born, then they don't hate you. They hate themselves. They hate the world they live in. They hate the fear they are experiencing all the time. That's that, you know? Don't believe their lies. All right. If we're all the same person, why are some people men and others women? We're not all the same person. We're all the same being. The expression is different. You're also a stick and a tree and the dirt and a bee and this microphone. Thank you very much. All right. You're every single thing in your experience, just like a dream. In a dream, you're everything around you. Everything around you is you. It's not you. It's only you. So it's not that some people are men and some people are women. Why does it look like that? Well, there's another reason why that actually happens. Why you are dreaming a world where there are men that are like you, and there are women that are not. The men are there to meet you in your expression. You're not this man body thing. You're the being inside of that thing. This is your expression. And you need a counterpart. Otherwise, you don't have a reason to spark the awakening journey by trying to complete yourself with a woman. And that's the reason why. Most men won't accept that. Okay. All right. Let's get to the book, guys. You've been so patient and so wonderful. Let me share my screen. Ariane, you want to know how to get over an addiction? I actually have something for you for that. There's something called Genius Recovery. Look it up, Genius Recovery, and you will you'll find it. And I'm a part of that project because I really have a special place in my heart for recovery and addiction, because ego is an addiction. And I, of course, am helping people all the time overcome their addiction to ego. All right. Take a look, my friends. Take a look. Now, I cannot see. Actually, I'm going to do this. I'm going to move the chat window. Oh, not that one. I'm going to move the Founding Members Club chat window into another window so that I can keep an eye on any questions. And then here, I'm going to go full screen. No, I'm not. I'm not going to go full screen. Is this it? This is the wrong one, isn't it? Yes, it is. One moment, guys. Let me find the proper file. There it is. There it is. Share this tab instead. All right, my homies. Let's go through this book together. I have 4 monitors, Lenny. 4 freaking monitors. Let me show you. Is this thing on? There. Oh, there's my computer. Here's one of the monitors. There's another one that's tall, and here's another one right here. Look at that. You guys get that behind the scenes look. Now you know that it's just a red thing around me right here and nowhere else. All right, so let's take a look at this thing. I'm going to go through every chapter here in this book. My interest is to just let you know what you're going to learn. We're going to scroll through everything. We're not going to go over it all. We're going to scroll through it. All right. First one's an intro. When you see anything like this, little centered poems, these are my poems that I wrote during my awakening journey. So I captured them at the time. I brought them forward and I put them into here so you could find them. These are all true stories. They're stories, so you know they're stories, but they're true. They really happened to me. Today is not my 35th birthday, but the day that I was writing this was my 35th birthday. My 41st birthday is coming up, so you can get an idea of how long ago I wrote this. This part right here. This is, I'll let you read it. This one. This is a story about how I realized that adults are playing pretend games, let's say. And when they play these games, if you don't play along, you will be harmed. You'll either be excommunicated, pushed away, not accepted, or you will be physically hurt. Okay, no teacher is your teacher. This is important. It's important for me to say this early on too, because most of the time we look for somebody not to teach us, but to blame if what they say is not helpful. We need someone to blame. We need a villain. In the beginning, we look at that villain like they're a hero so that we hook them. If I said, hey, who wants to be my villain? Nobody would say yes. If I said, hey, who wants to be my hero? Everyone would say yes. So we first say, I need help. And that help that we ask for is what draws someone to become a hero for us. And of course, that allows them to be the teacher. Okay? So there is no teacher here. You are the teacher. You're also everything, right? So being the teacher is pretty standard. So I'm going to let you read that chapter. I'm not going to go into it too much here. The answer. Okay. In this chapter, I talk about how I met Jed McKenna's mentor and how some of the chapters in this book are written by him, what Jed taught me in little ways, and then that's that. Next, the chapter written by Jed's mentor. This was a chapter written about my life by Jed's mentor. Jed's mentor wrote chapters as me about my life for me to use in my book. And this was probably 4 years ago, something like that, 3 years ago. And that he wrote this, probably 4 years ago. And it was beautiful. It was very sweet of him to do it. And he just took what he knew about me. And yeah, 1 second, guys. I'll be right back. I'm just going to leave you where you are for a second. All right, let's keep going here. So this was written by Jed's mentor. I'm just going to let you read it. But mostly he's writing about, in this chapter, which is chapter 4, I believe. Is that it? 5. This is about him meeting me and about, well, from my perspective, and about who we are for each other, how we're both awake, and how the rest of the world doesn't get it, basically. Which is one of the things that he liked to imagine. Okay. Next, the dance of desires and the theater of paradox. So I talk a little bit about patterns here. Patterns and paradox are major aspects of your reality. Paradox is something that appears to be contradictory, right? Something that I say and then I say the opposite. And it seems like those two things are Arian's genius recovery. Definitely is right. Genius recovery. Daquan. Just so you know. Genius addiction is great too. So let's go into this, right? Just for a very short version. I've learned to respect the paradox of pattern. That means that things appear to be cause and effect. They appear to be one thing causing another thing. However, your understanding of what actually causes something is very limited. You don't know what caused that thing, and then beyond that, what caused that thing as well. And where do you draw the line? The paradox of pattern is that you don't actually know where a pattern starts, what causes something. But you do know that if you understand that there is a pattern, you can find out how to change things around you, your reality around you. And therefore, in order to get what you want, you have to understand pattern, even though patterns are not the way, right? Okay. Okay. We're going to go through this. I'll let you read through this whole chapter. I'm not going to get into it too much. I talk about the Tao of Badass in here. I talk about masculine energy. What is this? Which one is this? Yep. I talk about the counterbalance of masculine and feminine energy in here too, and how that's inside of you, and how it's not about male and female, and And I get into like one little tiny moment where I say how annoying it is when people make you try to use their pronouns, and it's dumb. Okay, so go through this. I'll let you read that. Here we go. Because apparently that confuses the absolute dog shit out of some people to the point of demanding that you use their preferred pronouns. That was one of very few political comments. That should not be political, to be honest. This is not a political conversation. It's a perspective conversation. It's a spiritual conversation. But of course, it is somehow made political. All right. Awakening to the dream. In this chapter, I talk a little bit about how you can imagine and start to believe and accept, not believe, but accept that life as you experience it right now is a lot more like a dream than it is a reality that you're used to. What if I told you that life is a dream, that this moment itself is a dream? And then I talk about why, and I walk you through it. Here's your thing, but how could it be a dream? I see it and experience it all right now. And then there's this thing called the brain in a vat experiment that I go over. You're going to need to learn about that. That'll tell you a little bit about, it's what the Matrix was based on. And you'll understand a little bit of how to use this thought experiment to start to loosen your idea that maybe it's possible that this physical world around me is not what I think it is. All right, it's not as solid as I think it is. Okay, I'll let you have that. Okay, this was written by Jed McKenna's mentor again, Converting the Hardest Times into Wholeness. I'll let you read that. This was also written by him, Dying for the Fun of It. I'll let you read that. All right, the story I tell. This is me talking about Jed's teacher, his mentor, a little bit more, and about how the word real and what is real is not necessarily the way to look at life to gauge whether or not something has actually happened or whether or not you truly exist. The real is what we perceive, the real is what we believe, and so what's real isn't what is true. Okay? Well, you can go into that. That again, if you want to jump to that, it's chapter 10, the story I tell. All right. I like when I write trippy. Get to see that again. This talks about how you're born, you live, and you die in your mind, that you never experience the outside world directly. Okay. Chapter 11, the ego-eating virus, unraveling the self through thought. This is an excerpt from a Jed McKenna article, actually, that he had written, and you can read through that. I don't need to go into it. This, No Time to Die, is the beginning of my outlining what happened to me when I was dying. It's a couple of sections for it, and not very much of the information about it, but you can read that when you get to it. Then I get into the game of no games. This is the process and the way in which you can actually trigger yourself to wake up. You can wake up to the fact that you are dreaming by playing this game. This game is the only way that you can do it because you're addicted to games. You can't stop playing games. And so if you can't stop playing games, you have to play a game that helps you end all your games. Okay? And that's what this is. It's about what to do. I also talked a bit about making money, how I made money with the Tao of Badass, exactly how it happened, and the 80-20 rule, and how I used it to actually find what to focus on. There's some stories in here. How I made money, and then finally I was like, oh shit, now what do I do? And the game of no games is about winning the only game you possibly can win. The game of no games. If a game doesn't end, then you can't win it, right? Because it never ends. You need a game to end in order to win. So the only game that has an ending is the game of no games, where you remove all your games, and at the end of that, you don't have any. Okay? Okay. I'm not going to ruin it here. Let you go through that. Quitting the circus. This is a chapter that is Let's see. It's about quitting your games and stopping the roles that you're playing. There's a process to it. It takes time, of course. I talk a bit about the Tao Badass here, and how it plays into this. How the belief control process of the Tao Badass was really a major aspect to it, and how it's related to the game of no games. How do you remove beliefs, and how do you use the game of no games to remove those beliefs? Next, the preconditioned state. This is going back in time to the beginning of your first pattern recognition. Now, your pattern recognition is the very first pattern that you ever recognized. I believe, experienced for myself, and I've come to the conclusion for myself that your real talent is pattern recognition. All the rest of your talents can be derived from this one talent. And I talk about what it really means, what it really is. Okay. The rule book of life. This is about rules that you play. Rules are basically patterns that are contextual. You have certain rules for certain contexts. In this place, you can do this. In that place, you can do that, but you can't do it in the same thing in both places. You can't take a dump on the floor of the bank without getting arrested, but you can take a dump in the bathroom. How about that? And it's beyond that, of course. I talk about your ego here and what your ego truly is, being your core role in life. The thing we try to perpetuate in the world, the thing we try to build in life, the thing that holds us confined, and the thing that keeps us asleep. It's not outside of us. It's who we are. But it's an expression of that thing and our addiction to constantly perpetuating it that makes it such an ego rather than just a pattern recognition. Okay, this is about how suffering is actually the shit. How suffering exists because otherwise, if it didn't exist, otherwise we would be falling endlessly into pain in the wrong direction. Suffering exists to help guide us and put us back on the right path. Okay, you can go through that process, chapter 17. Feel free to do that. This is about the hero, victim, villain triangle, the trifecta transformation. This is about getting out of those three roles, hero, victim, and villain, by recognizing that all three of them are victim, and victims are manipulative and out of integrity. Okay? The ego ejection. Okay. This is a process. All right? This is steps. How to eject your ego. Okay? The first rule is no new bullshit, no new beliefs that aren't true. I'm not going to accept or believe anything new that isn't true. Second, I'm going to phase out all of my current bullshit, all the beliefs that I currently have and all the roles that are associated. Third, I'm going to go on the hunt for things that I'm avoiding, and I'm going to pull the beliefs out there. I'm going to pull out the roles, and I'm going to confront those and remove those too. And then finally, where's the last one? The hunt. That was it. Those are the three stages. All right. And then here are some strategies that the ego plays. It'll make you forget. It'll make you be emotional. It'll make you afraid. And it'll make you attached. And it'll hide the attachment. Here's a bigger list of strategies for confronting the ego. Identify your ego so it can't hide. Stay aware and adaptable so you don't get painted into a corner. Maintain presence of mind. Always be aware. Embrace real thinking and self-growth. This is where you actually make your life about growing and evolving and reducing ego. You play the game of no games. Avoid misdirections and ego traps. Always look for the ego and how it might be trapping you. Surrender to win. This is where you actually fight your way to your fears, and then you surrender to your fears so that they have no power over you anymore. Spiritualize your warfare. Make this about, make everything about an opportunity to grow. Replace all your movies and everything that you've done with everything that you do to avoid. Replace that with stuff that helps you wake up. Clear vision and your objective. Keep in mind that you're why you're confronting the ego. Remember, that's that. and then develop catagallophilia, catagallophilia, not phobia, catagallophilia, which is the love for being ridiculed or mocked. The ego hates this, hates it, will do anything it can to get you, to keep you from doing it. Okay, you want to develop this love for the destruction of ego within yourself. This is a hilarious fucking story of how I went to the Stanley Hotel to face my fears of ghosts, and it's detailed, and you will find it entertaining. Let's get past it though. It's long, as you can see. All right, becoming your own compass. Let's see. What is this one about? Which one? Where are we? I believe that this is the stages of awakening. Let's see though. This is just, I'm going to let you read this one. I really like this chapter, Becoming Your Own Compass. Take your time to read it. It's very, very powerful. Reflections of You is the next one, chapter 21. This is something that I wrote recently, right? It's been 6 years since my birthday, 35th birthday. Daquan, I'm not still scared of ghosts. Actually, you'll get to see why I'm not after you read this chapter. The Shining. I went to the hotel where The Shining was written. That's what that was about, that chapter. Okay. We're going to go through this. This is about faith versus trust, and what the difference is, and how you want trust instead of faith if you can help it. Talks about the monomyth, which is the hero's journey, and how it's actually about you. This is a poem that I wrote when I was going through it. All right. Corey, yes, that's the hotel from the movie. That's the hotel from the movie. Not from the movie, but from the book. The movie was just a set. The hotel from the book, where it actually was written, what it was written about. Okay. Let's see what we got here. Why wake up? Why do it at all? This is about that catagallophilia, where I'm talking about the time that I would embrace ridicule because it would hurt my ego, and I wanted to get rid of my ego. So Arian, this is chapter 22 is the chapter you want to dive into there for that. That's what I did. I legitimately and personally really did that. All the stuff I did. Keep going. I'm going to let you read it. 23, the dance of inherent games. Inherent games are games that we play in order to stay alive, and how some games will mask themselves. Well, some ego games will mask themselves and make it seem like you have to play them in order to stay alive, but you don't. And this is how to tell the difference between the two of them, how I do. 34, the never-ending circle. Okay. This one is about, let me see. This was about time and eternity and infinity. It's an amazing concept. Eternity has the same description as truth. Of course, eternity is always happening. It's personally verifiable. It's self-evident, and it's happening now. What people don't realize is that eternity is actually not just the now and this moment, but the eternity. Eternity is the only thing that you can experience directly. Everything else is an illusion over top of it. Corey, the Overlook Hotel is not the name of it, though. It's called the Stanley Hotel, if you want to look it up. Type it in so you can see it. Stanley Hotel. Okay. Talk about eternity and infinity. This is an amazing story about me at the gas station, and about how I've met the first great love of my life, and how it drew me into this journey into awakening. And that was her role. That's what she was meant to do. And that's in many ways what happens with you with women, and why you're drawn to a woman, because she calls you to be your greater self. Washing Dishes by Starlight, chapter 26. All right. This section, let's see what we go over here. This is the section where I actually talk about the stages of awakening. I believe this is the last chapter. I talk about the actual stages of awakening that you go through, the blinking in and out, the whirlpool, the rest stage. Here's the whirlpool stage. The rest stage, which is this stage here, then awakening, then integration, and how you can tell when you're in each one, and how to sort of push away the fears of what's called the false summit. All right. That's that. Let's take a couple questions here. See what we got going on. How important is it to have a lover that has the same views on what happens after death? It's not important. You don't. Who cares about which lover you have? What matters is what caused you to be a greater man. The lover you have is not, is not the thing that defines you. What defines you and what matters to you is whether or not you are the lover you want to be. And if you show up that way in the world and you show up for yourself 100% authentic, which you can't do unless you know truly who you and what you are, then the lover you have, it won't matter what they believe or think or feel. It'll just be what is right for you, what is meant for you. And that's that. If I don't find a lover, does it matter? No, it doesn't matter. You're inspired already. The lover exists to call you into your awakening journey. I exist to call you into your awakening journey as well. I'm not your lover, though. I'm just going to keep that in mind. All right, guys. I would love to go deeper into this with you, but I think that you should read the book. I think that you should take the time and read the book. At least start the book. I'll take a few more questions here. Did you ever feel empty having sex with all those women versus the ones you had connections with? Yes, I did. I felt very empty doing that sometimes. And it wasn't just the women I was sleeping with. It was the reason why I was sleeping with those women. And that's when I felt empty, not because of the women themselves, but because of the reason I was sleeping with them. I was trying to fill a hole. No pun intended. I was trying to fill a hole inside myself. And because of that, no matter what I did, I felt empty. Because you can't fill an endless void. You have to become it. And that's that. Can you still talk to someone / keep a social life while waking up? I don't know if you can. I had a hard time because I couldn't personally talk to and spend a lot of time around or connect with a bunch of people who were trying to convince me to go deeper asleep. And it just made a lot of suffering for me. So I stopped doing that and started just focusing on my awakening instead. Okay. I'm not finished applying all the concepts in the Tao of Badass. Do you recommend I finish reading and applying the concepts in the Tao of Badass, or do you recommend I read the Badass of Tao instead? Emmanuel, just start reading the Badass of Tao and read them both. I don't negate them in each book. They go along with each other, and that's that. So go ahead. Yes, Lenny asks, why not both, Emmanuel? Exactly. Okay. Daquan, is that hole still present? The hole is me, bro. The whole truth and nothing but the truth. Yes, it's present. It never goes away because it's not there. It's a hole. It's a lack of something. Corey, if there's something that you're unbelievably good at, like better than almost anybody I know, it's that making that awkward moment on purpose. I just appreciate you. This is not the Tao of Badass 2.0. This is the Badass of Tao. This is the spiritual book, spiritual version of the Tao of Badass. I can write more about the Tao of Badass. I will, of course. And of course I will. But the next Tao of Badass has to come after this book because I have to write the book that integrates both of them. And that's going to be a big deal. And I'm going to need your help in getting some feedback. So first we have this stage, Badass of Tao. I need your feedback. You can highlight the PDF if you do it in the actual Google link that I sent you. If you load that link up, and in fact, I'll just do it now. I'll show you what I'm talking about. Okay. So, oh, not that one. This one. Sure. All right. So if you load it up here in Google Drive, you can find a thing that you have a question about, right? Let's just take this. Okay. And then over here on the right, you'll see this add a comment. You can say, what the fuck do you mean by this? Or you can say, do you mean the thing from earlier or not? Or you can say, can you add more of this kind of stuff? Because there's not enough. Or you could say, give more detail about this topic, right? Don't make me spell things right, guys. Okay, right? And then you click comment. There's the comment, and I'll see it when you come in. If you read it on your own on a PDF you've downloaded, then I can't see it. Obviously, you can't comment if you do that. But if you read it there within the group, then go ahead, and that'll be good. So regardless, I'm okay with it. Okay. You guys are hilarious. Okay. So read the book, read the book, read the book, read the book, read the book. Arian, read the book. Corey, read the book. Ed, I know you're going to read the book. All right. Good. Read the fucking book. Tell me what you think. Between now and next week, I want you to read it. Next week, I'm going to be on an airplane at this time. I will not be having this call at this time. Next week, I will be having the call much earlier on Friday. Much, much earlier. Okay? So go ahead and make sure that you're aware and you're paying attention. A couple of hours or few hours or many hours earlier, you're going to get a notification that says that I'm online. And that is the call for next week. So we're going to have a short call next week because I'm going to be flying that same day. I want you to read this book. You've got a week to do it. If you don't finish it in a week, it's okay. You'll have another week before I'm going to be stable on another call. This next month after that, I'm going to be traveling a different place every single time almost that you talk to me. I'm going to be in a different scene, in a different place. So we have that going for us. And then I'll be back in October, late October, in fact. I'll be traveling a lot. So I'm going to, just so you know, I'm going to Las Vegas, then to Florida, then to Texas, Austin, then to Oregon, Portland, Bend, Eugene, Ashland in Oregon, then to Salt Lake City, and then back to Hawaii. And those are my different trips. You're in the U.S., Corey. Reach out, guys. Send me messages on here. Let me know if you want to come meet up and have a drink with me. I'm totally interested in that, hanging out. So let me know, and we'll see if we can coordinate. And then I'll be back here again, and I'll be continuing to go deeper. Much love, brothers. Hope you had a great time. I hope this was eventful for you, helpful for you. And I'll post this as soon as it's done downloading. Sending you all sorts of aloha and love, and I hope that you gain a lot of clarity, and at the very least, that you're able to identify the confusing and unclear aspects of your life as a result of reading this book. Please help me make it perfect. Please help me make it great. And Corey, you just, yeah. Can we all just appreciate Corey for a minute? Like, can we just like realize that if he wasn't here making these ridiculous jokes, that we would take our lives too seriously? Can we like truly actually appreciate Corey? Let me see. There you go. That's my my appreciation of Corey. Thank you, bro. He's hilarious, dude. He's hilarious. He's like the jester mocking you. I can't wait till we all get together and we get to do some actual classes together. Have a beautiful, beautiful time. Have a beautiful time, guys. Read this fucking book, please. Read the whole book, chapter after chapter, cover to cover. Okay, and we will catch up soon. All right, brothers. Have a beautiful one. Talk soon. Johnny, send me a message. Send me a message, Johnny. Text me on the telephone. We'll talk more. Love you guys.